I think I'm becoming a seltzer addict. This is all I drink anymore. But at least I'm hydrated. Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. It's been a minute. I was in a vlogging mood at the beginning of the month, and then I slowly fell out of being in a vlogging mood. And I do attribute that to some dip in mental health. So we're back, and we're gonna do my November wrap up. So if you're new here, this is a video where I talk about all the books I read, all the things I wrote, and some personal life tidbits, since I haven't really updated you in a few weeks. So yeah, let's get reacquainted. Let's talk about our month. And if you want to have a beverage, whether it's cold, like my seltzer water, or if you want to have a warm beverage, please join me while we sit and chat today. So as much as I didn't vlog in the month of November, I was pretty busy, and all things considered, I did quite a lot. Like, I knew November was going to be extremely chaotic in a lot of ways, but it was rewarding despite the fact that I dipped in mood at some point and I was in kind of a funk for a week. So all that to say, like, I read a lot, I wrote a lot, and somehow I did a lot, and I didn't vlog any of it. And you know what? We're cool with that. We lived in the moment. So let's talk about all the books I read first and foremost, because I read 6 books to completion, and a decent amount I started or like really got into in the month of November. The first book I finished was It's Okay That You're Not Okay by Megan Devine. Megan is a licensed professional counselor, has the same credentials that I do. And I read this book as more of like a way to enrich my therapy for my clients. If you don't know, I'm a professional counselor in my day job, and I had a slew of new clients with grief concerns, like coming into therapy specifically for grief, or like have had complicated grief, like that they've been just grieving for a long time. I wanted to make sure that I am always addressing it in the most helpful ways for my clients, because things that might work for me don't necessarily work for them. And so I read this book, and I do think it is very worth the read. I think there's a lot of great takeaways from this book. And if you are actively grieving and you want some guidance, like, there's also exercises that you can do in here. And so as a counselor, I think it's a really good resource for me to be able to pull out and either suggest to clients or like do the exercises with them. And as a reader and somebody who has had death in her life all the time, including most recently, we did have another death in the family. So this book really goes into it, like what's negative to say, like what you should really focus on, that kind of thing. So I think it was really well done. I personally liked it. I know there are some negative reviews. I check out the reviews every time I read something, and you know, that's fair, but I personally as a therapist like would be recommending this, and I have since recommended it to some clients who I think would benefit from it. So yeah, all in all, it was a really good resource, and I'm happy that I finally got to it. Next, I completed Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Bazterrica. I'm so sorry. Tender is the Flesh is a pretty popular novel. I'm pretty sure this was Agustina's debut, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a very like interesting concept where we have this post-modern world that, you know, meat, like a virus kind of affects all the animals and livestock. And so we can no longer eat animal meat. And so they start taking to raising humans in order to harvest the flesh of the humans. But they treat these humans specifically like they do cattle and other livestock. And so there's a whole subsect of humans where they are designated to be like raised up and like, you know, aren't taught anything or treated like animals to be slaughtered. And I think the themes in this book are very solid. I enjoyed it. I think it's well written. I listened to it on audio as well, and I think the audiobook narrator does very well. The only thing I feel like I wanted more from this was more of like the social hierarchy commentary about like what it means to like the morals and how we deem certain people are unworthy of life, and the kind of like the eat the rich vibe, because you sort of somewhat get that in here of like how people are just like, you know, the more wealthier you are, the less you have to worry about like becoming food for other people. And there just wasn't quite enough of that there for me. Like I just wanted a little bit more. I wanted the main character to really discuss the stakes of this type of lifestyle, as well as like the morals of like who gets to decide like who's morally well enough to to eat humans without any consequence. So yeah, there just wasn't quite enough, but I did really like it. I have The Unworthy by the author as well, and I do plan on trying to read that by the end of the year. It's probably going to be close, but I'm going to try my hardest to read it. So yeah, overall, really was pretty good. I'm glad I read it. I feel like this is on everyone's like to read list. So, and then I also finished Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. First of all, it's just like, I bought this on a whim because I knew it had mixed media, and I knew it had like the older school vibe. Like, this was supposed to be in the 90s. I did not realize it was dual timeline. It was like the 90s and the present, like 2025, but there was also some in the middle there too, of like middle 2000s. So it kind of hopped all over the place, and it had a screenplay in it as well. And so the premise of this is that these 4 newly graduated college kids are kind of thrown together by circumstances that, like, they either knew somebody or knew of somebody or whatever, and they came together to film Horror Movie, and that's what it was called. And it never ended up finishing. Like, they never made it past production. And then in 2008, the director Valentina starts to release little bits of the movie and the script online, hoping to drop some kind of like mystery or like cult following around it, and it works. And so now you're following the sole survivor, the only person that's still living from the set, and you're following him as he starts, like, he played the thin kid who like has no lines in the movie, but he's the only one left. And so he's like talking to like these Hollywood producers, and they're going to remake the movie, and you're following him as like you're trying to piece together as it hops back and forth from present to the movie script to the past, and you're kind of figure out, like, is the movie more than meets the eye? Like, is there some magic? Like, did something happen on set? Like, was it cursed? Like, you're trying to figure out this as like the book goes along. And I enjoyed the basic premise of this, but I will say it was very, very slow. It at times felt like a slog to get through, and there was not a lot of horror up until the very end. Like, I expected more going on into it. Even like, just like, there was some definitely creepy vibes, but like nothing outright was like, oh, we are in a horror movie right now, other than the fact that, like, obviously the title Horror Movie, right? So I was kind of expecting a little bit more. The ending I liked. I do think it came together and it got there, and it was really creepy and weird at the end, but it just took a very long time to get there. And I wish I had a little bit more sprinkled in throughout so that it would have made the ending even more satisfying. But I liked it. I liked reading something that had mixed media, since that is something I'm playing around with right now in my current work in progress. And I like the dual timeline too, because that is something I would like to do in the future. So yeah, overall, not a bad read. Probably not my favorite horror book, but I did like it. And this was my first Paul Tremblay, and it is enough for me to try to check out his other work. Next, I read An Academy for Liars by Alexis Henderson. This is becoming my favorite author. I just love her work so much. This was not a 5-star read for me. Like, it wasn't perfect, but I really enjoyed it. It's a dark academia book with a little bit of forbidden romance, like college student, professor type of deal. But Lennon has always been like a failure in the eyes of her family, her friends, her fiance. Like, she has never really amounted to anything. And she's also dealing with a lot of mental health issues. So when she catches her fiance screwing her best friend, she kind of takes off, and we don't know if she's gonna try to commit suicide or if she's going to try to, like, you know, like, just run and never come back. She ends up being invited to this prestigious academy to test into their program, and it's a very not ordinary type of test. So she gets in, and the story kind of unfolds for there. The academy is all about these people who can manipulate others and possibly even matter with persuasion. So, like, putting your mindset, your persuasive ability into something else in order to make it follow what you wanted to do. So whether that's, like, you know, telling somebody that they are going to lift something up, to maybe even breaking the space-time continuum if you're that powerful. So overall, really liked it. I liked the discussion. This was another slow book though. It kind of like slowly built up. I enjoyed that though. Whereas the last book, I felt like it needed a little bit more to keep me interested the entire time. This book felt like it was like slow and building for a reason. And I think it helped too because we are in the book for a pretty large time frame. And it felt that way too, which sometimes, like things blink and you're like, oh my God, it's been 2 months. And that's like, it doesn't feel like 2 months. Like this felt like the time was passing. And I really appreciated that. I also just love the author's way with words. Like everything is just so well written and I was invested because of that alone. Overall, like I really liked it. I liked the powers. It reminded me quite a lot of The Magicians actually. I don't know if you guys have read that book or watched the show, but the beginning, like the first book and like the first season, especially the first couple episodes of The Magicians, like it felt very much that way. Like you have to, like you're kind of whisked into like this pocket world type of thing where humans can't really see it. And you have to test into this prestigious academy and not everybody gets accepted because they don't always pass the test, but the test is like your innate ability to do magic. Very, very similar in that way. And it kind of also reminded me of A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik as well, where again, you have like not everything in the academy is as it seems. Not quite like, I feel like Deadly Education, there was like more monstery bits, but like there was definitely like things like aren't quite as they say on the surface. And I like that. So overall, like I did enjoy it. I would recommend it, especially if you do like The Magicians or Deadly Education. If you like those two or one of them, I think you should give this book a go. Then, based on a recommendation by Zilla, and this was a very impulsive decision because it was available immediately from my Libby app on the library. So I listened to the audio for episode 13 by Craig DeLuey. And this was a great audio experience, let me tell you. It was so amazing. Like everything was just so good. And I definitely think that enhanced my liking of this book. So everything in this book is told in mixed media. So there's diary entries and podcasts and editor's notes and behind the scenes confessional stuff, which as somebody who's writing a mixed media book, I was like, oh, I'm going to eat this up. And I did. I love mixed media elements. And this was told throughout all of that. So the entire book is mixed media, not, just like some of it thrown in. Everything is told from different characters' perspectives based on like their journal entries, their confessional booths, the audio recordings. And the whole thing is that this ghost crew, so something like ghost hunters that you would see on TV, this crew got through episode 13. And on episode 13, they are getting into this like really big break. Like they're making discoveries. And they were like, wow, this show's going to be amazing. Like episode 13 is really going to land us on the map. But things go wrong in episode 13. It's never actually aired. And so you're following their journals and their recordings and everything that you're like hearing for an episode that never actually went live. And yeah, it was really cool. It was a fun experience. I don't hate the ending, but there was one thing that kind of pulled me out. There was like specifically a journal entry. And that's the thing, because it was a journal entry, that pulled me out a little bit because of what was happening in the book. And it didn't seem plausible that someone would write the journal entry. And I don't want to spoil anything, so if you ever read it, then maybe you get to that part and you'll understand what I mean. So that threw me out a little bit, but then how the book ended, I was like, well, that leaves some room for interpretation on what was actually going on in the end. So I do like it. I would recommend it. It was a really fun time, and I truly think listening to the audio was the way to go. I haven't picked up the physical book. It was literally just on a whim. I could do this. Zilla recommended it to me. I'm going to trust Zilla's recommendation, and it was a win. So go listen to it. And last but not least, I read Hollow by Taylor Groth. This I read because there's two reasons. One, there was an ebook sale, and I am a sucker for a quick deal. And two, I listened to this author speak on a panel like 2 months ago now, where they were talking about horror and like I got a free ticket and it was a really cool experience. I did have that in my vlog at some point way back when, so if you're interested, I'll try to link it somewhere. But I was really interested to see what this author was all about. After listening to them speak, I wanted to see how their writing was and their ideas. And then the ebook came up, and so I was like, great, I'm just gonna buy it. And I read it pretty quickly. I was kind of interested immediately. The cover drew me in, and the premise was also interesting. But I will say, I did not realize that this was young adult going into it. And for me, that did matter because it definitely changed things quite immediately on how I was taking in this book. Nothing wrong with young adult, but I have been reading so much adult that I find I'm not enjoying the young adult as much anymore, and that is not fair as a reviewer then to be like, yeah, I hated it or whatever. But I didn't hate this book. It just, there was a couple things that kind of kept me from really enjoying it the entire time I was reading it. The first being that the writing does feel very young. After banging out adult horror specifically for a while now, it does read like a young adult. You are in a child's mind, and that is good, right? That's not a bad thing. For me, it was not what I wanted to read personally, but I think like it does its job. Like I felt like I was reading a teenager. They frustrated me like teenagers would frustrate me. Like they felt like one of my clients where I'm just like, oh my God, please just do the thing. Like, let's practice it. You got this. Like, talk to your friends. But there was also just some elements that didn't jive with me either. I felt like there were like a couple creepy elements. Like there were like nests of crows and puppets and the isolation, like getting separated on a mountain hike and all these creepy little elements, but none of them fully meshed together very well. Like the puppets and the crows in particular, to me, unless I missed something, they had like no connection at all. And so that bothered me. There was also a couple other plot points too that I just felt like just didn't land very well. Specifically, this is what I thought I was getting going in, like the themes of friendship and claiming your identity and being comfortable with yourself. Like there were things there, but again, they didn't all come together. And then they also, I just didn't feel like there was enough oomph behind all of them to really hold it up. Specifically with the friends, like I thought this book was all about friendship, and it just didn't, like we never really got moments with the friends. So I was like, oh, like this 80% of this book, the friends aren't even in the picture. So that kind of bothered me too. So while I don't think it was a book for me, I do think there is an audience for this, and I specifically think it's for readers who are younger, like on the actual teen side of things, maybe 14, 15, 16, especially ones who might want to dip their toes into horror. I don't ever feel like it got like so far into it that it would like leave people terrified, but there's enough elements there that's definitely a little creepy and unsettling, and I think somebody who's just starting to learn more about what they like in horror, this would be a really good place to start. So overall, those are all the books I had, and I definitely talked way longer than I wanted to. So let's try to power through the next couple parts, my bad. So let's talk about my writing. In the month of November, I did quite a lot of writing. I broke 20,000 words on my new manuscript. Woo! I did have a goal of getting to 30,000 in the month, like a soft goal. But as I mentioned earlier, my mental health dipped. I had a bit of a crash out, as the kids say. And I ended up taking like 5-6 days off of writing completely. And henceforth, I did not get to my 30,000. I think I ended around like the 22 or 23,000 mark. And I'm completely happy with that though. I didn't want to burn myself out. I also went away for the weekend, which I'll talk about shortly. But I went away and I was going to try to write a little bit, but it didn't happen. So with the end being just a little bit over 20,000 words, I'm very happy with that. I think I can still get to my goal by the end of the December. Even if it's not 60,000, like I was aiming for that, but that's okay, right? Like I just want to get this book done, and I want to have something like new to say that I can work on and edit in. But I'm happy with where I ended up. I also submitted not one, not two, but three short stories this month. That was insane. So yeah, 2 of the short stories were written already. One, I resubmitted to Havoc. I had submitted this one last year for a specific theme, And then Havoc reopened themes up this year, and that story I thought would work really well for another theme that they were having an open call for. So I just spruced it up, like nothing major, no big edits. I spruced it up, I sent that off. And so I submitted a short story that I had already written. The second short story I had written, and I added more words. So I was around 2,000 words. I ended up adding about 1,500 words. So I submitted around 3,500. And I do think it's much better off for it. It's a horror short story that really focuses around anxiety and a touch of grief as well. And I really liked it. I think it hit the nail on the head with more words. And I think the reason I submitted it to something else, and I do think that the submission I submitted it to before, I think would have been more appropriate than this submission, because I don't know if it fits the theme enough. And that's okay if I don't get accepted. But I think I needed to edit this more, and I didn't. And I feel like if I resubmit that somewhere else now, it's going to be stronger anyway. But hey, I did the thing. And then I wrote a whole new short story from scratch. And this one was a cozy paranormal romance story about a ghost and a girl. And it was I loved it. It was so cute. Like the amount, my ego for a minute there was like so high, because the amount of people that said like my writing in it was just so beautiful. I was like, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I did that. But truthfully, like, I'm really proud of that story. It was a really nice palate cleanser, because I've been writing and reading horror so much that it was really nice to dip my toes into some kind of non-horror world again. Specifically fantasy, contemporary fantasy, and romance. Like, had not written that in a while, so that was really nice. And I submitted that off. And the due date for that was November 30th. So all of these things that I've submitted are likely going to take a few months to get back to me. I believe all of them had like no earlier than January that I would hear from them. So yeah, I'm not gonna hold my breath that I'll have any news this coming month, but I guess we'll find out. And I also, if you haven't noticed, I streamed a little bit this month. I was in 3 streams. I had 2 on my channel, 1 with Zilla, 1 by myself. And then I streamed with Autumn on her channel. And I really missed streaming. Like, I missed doing that. And I really like when it's a little bit more contained. Like, not that I don't like talking, but I like when we're productive, like when we're pretty regimented, like, okay, like I want to do 4 25-minute sprints, so we got to be on this, right? I really like that format, and I feel like I'm the most productive when I do that. So I am going to try to be streaming again in December. Keep an eye out for those. I don't know when I'm going to try to stream in December, but be on the lookout for that. I am going to try to aim for 2 possibly. And last but not least, oh my God, I had so much stuff going on in the month of November. So I went on several dinners. I ate really good this month. Not just Thanksgiving dinner, but like I went out for birthdays. I had a surprise party. I had a friend that cooked because she got a new home, and she was doing kind of like a welcome to my house party. And yeah, I just ate so much food. It was delectable, honestly. I love a good meal. And we went to a lot of different places too. So overall, the food was excellent. Cannot complain about that. I also watched a decent amount of movies. Every time I sit down to film these things, I definitely feel like I watched more movies and then I can't remember them all. But I'm going to tell you the 3 that I remember, and that's probably because these are the most recent movies I've watched. So anything from the beginning of the month is probably out of my brain already. And this is why I have to write things down. And if I don't remember them immediately, then I don't remember what I watch until someone tells me about it. And I'll be like, oh my God, I just watched that. So I watched Bring Her Back, which was on my Bitter End challenge. So I finished that task. I really liked it. The grief theme was very well done. And overall, like, it was just a very solid movie. I really enjoyed that as horror. So if you haven't watched it, you should definitely add that to your list. But please check all of the, like, trigger warnings. There are so many trigger warnings, especially with, like, child death, death of a parent, traumatic deaths too. Like, not just like, oh, someone died. Like, you see the visuals of the deaths, and it's not a fun time. And there's a lot of child abuse. There's just a lot. So please, like, it's a really great movie, but I definitely had to, like, sit with that and be like, oh my God, what did I just see? Like, that was horrendous in some ways. So be warned of that. I also watched The Witch, which is directed by Robert Eggers and starred Anya Taylor-Joy. It was her first role, I believe. that was a solid movie. That was so good, honestly. I was very impressed with the movie, and I just there I have no notes. Like, I really liked it a lot. I think it was really good. It has a vague open ending, which I personally love. I love that so much. It also took a direction that I was not quite expecting it. Like, again, I was happy with how it ended, but I was not quite expecting it. And overall, like, it was just really good. I had to listen to it with subtitles on, though, because the English, like the puritanical English accents were so thick, and I was like, what is anyone saying here? So I will say, if you have a hard time, like, listening or watching things and like your brain is just not comprehending, it's definitely a subtitle movie. And then I also had a movie night with some friends. It was just like a very cozy Christmas, like to get into the spirit. And my friend really wanted me to watch It's a Wonderful Life. I had never seen it. That was not a movie that was playing in my household growing up. And I actually really liked it. I was surprised. I kind of expected it to be kind of goofy, and like the humor was not going to land and stuff like that. And there were a couple moments where like I was poking fun of it, like, oh my God, like, imagine this. And then like there's moments too where they were like, a $5,000 house, and I'm like, could you imagine? Like, a $5,000 house sounds improbable at this point. I don't know what the inflation rate would be, but like, improbable. So yeah, it was a feel good movie. Although I don't really like the main character. If you watched it, then maybe you'll understand. But like, if without intervention, without like the universe or the spiritual intervention that happened, this man would have just been like, my life sucks. And he needed somebody to be like, well, look at how much you like mean to people and how good it is, right? But if the angel didn't intervene, like, he would have just been a sourpuss. And that was it. And so I really didn't like him very much, but it was a cute ending at the end, okay? So we really like Clarence. I did a little bit of yoga again. I'm trying to use my pass before it expires. And what I did in the middle of the month, I went on a witchy wellness retreat. So this was an ancestral magic retreat where we went and, kind of focused on connecting with our ancestors as well as with each other, kind of learning from old traditions and making new traditions. And it was a it was an emotional weekend, honestly. I think in part that was why my mood and my mental health dipped a little bit, because like it was so heavy and needed in a lot of ways, but like there were so many things that like I had thought of and I was talking about, and I was also a facilitator too, so I hosted a workshop and I read cards for people and I taught them how to read cards and doing all these things, and it was just very draining in that way. And then I think like I also got some pretty crappy querying news over that weekend too, so there was just like a lot of feelings going on. And I haven't really talked much about querying because I'm not trying to jinx myself or anything, but that weekend I did get a rejection on a full manuscript, and it hurt my soul because I was really hoping for the most. And the reason they rejected me is because they said that they were currently, like, another client had something too similar to mine, which sucks. Ugh, this sucks so much. So I was really in a mood a little bit. But then, like, it was also nice too, because like even though people there weren't writers, like this was not a writing retreat. It was like a spiritual retreat, I guess you could say. It was very witchy. But like everybody kind of helped me like get out of that funk by just being there. So yeah. So anyway, though, the retreat was really good. Like, I really enjoyed it. I went on a solo walk in the woods. Like, no phones, no nothing. Thank God I didn't die. But it was just really nice. And even though it was cold, like by the end of it, I was like, wow, I just feel so invigorated. And I never went hiking this year at all. So it was a little bit like a hike. I was in the woods and I was on a path, but like there was rocks and things to climb over and stuff like that. So like I did that. I drummed a little bit. Like I said, I read some cards. I created stuff. I colored. I read some books, but I didn't read a whole lot because I was like exhausted by the end of it. So it was nice. I'm glad I did it. I do always like going on them, and being like part of a host, like being able to do these workshops like mean a lot to me. I always feel like I don't know what I'm talking about. And then I get up there and people are always like, I can't even tell you're nervous. And I was like, look, I'm sweating bullets right now. But yeah, it was really good. So overall, the month was very rewarding. I am hoping in some ways that my December calms down just a tid. I still have plans going on. There are still things to be had, but I'm going to try not to overcommit for December and really focus on being intentional with my time, like spending it with actual people and not forgetting that they exist, and finishing my novel. And those are my 2 goals for December. So that was my life in November. Thank you so much. This was going to be a long video, but I appreciate you guys sticking around and listening to me. Let me know how your November was, what you read, if you wrote something cool, or if you just had something positive you want to share. I'd love to know them in the comments. And if you got this far and you have nothing else to share, please leave me a little snowflake emoji. As much as I hate the cold, we are in the thick of it already. And I hear we're supposed to get snow this week. So when you'll see this video, maybe we'll have our first snow. But thank you guys for watching. And until next time, I'll see you then. Bye.